from the New York Post, ex-Hochul and Cuomo aide and husband worked as foreign agents for China.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
Splurged millions on mansion, Hawaii condo, and a Ferrari. So say the feds. And this has a terrible stench of the Biden regime written all over it, cutting backdoor deals with foreign nations, taking money, all of that stuff. It's completely despicable. But I'm sure Governor Kickback Kathy had no idea. She was in the dark the whole time. It's not like at least the 3 governors prior to her were forced to step down for terrible things they were involved in. It's not like her own lieutenant governor, Brian Benjamin, was pinched by the feds and charged, and then the charges were dropped, and then the charges were reinstated. So if something stinks, maybe you want to check your boot. I'm not saying I can't stand Kickback Kathy Hochul, and she's probably not responsible for all this, but she is certainly part of it. Either way, my name's Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm absolutely begging you.
I'm begging you, please. Come on, please.
It would help me a lot and cost you nothing. But if you wanted to help me even more and spend a tiny bit of money, you would buy my book, New York City 2020, Gotham Unglued, on Amazon.com. That link will be in the description. But they say, a former high-ranking aide for Governor Kathy Hochul and disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo. I mean, you could call Kickback Kathy disgraced as well, but they were arrested on Tuesday on charges she acted as a foreign agent for China.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
In exchange for millions of dollars in kickbacks and fancy perks such as salted duck. So there it is, right in the name, Kickback Kathy Hochul. She obviously knows exactly what's going on. The damning 64-page indictment accuses Linda's son, 41, and her husband, Christopher Hugh, of laundering and splurging their corrupt gains on a gaudy $4 million Manhasset mansion, a $2 million second home in Honolulu, and luxury cars such as a 2024 Ferrari Roma. Son shadily used her position under Hochul and Cuomo, who are unnamed but clearly referenced in the court documents, to turn the governor's office into a virtual mouthpiece for the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party, the bombshell indictment contends. And there they are. Oh, it's a bombshell. It's like the same picture. At several points, Sun bragged to Chinese consulate officials about effectively blocking Cuomo and Hochul from meeting meeting or publicly even mentioning Taiwan, including when the disputed island sent 200,000 much-needed masks to New York during the early days of the pandemic. Now, obviously, we never needed those masks. And it doesn't even matter what these people are up to, because they're so corrupt, right? You can't keep track of one story from the other. But yeah, so this lady and her husband's house was raided on Long Island a couple months ago, and now they're just now getting arrested. But Kathy Hochul is clearly the common denominator here and in the story with her former Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin. And here he is, right? Kind of flies under the radar a little bit, but bribery, fraud charges reinstated against former New York Lieutenant Governor. So for the millionth time, do you think when you have people like this, quote unquote, in charge, they're going to breed confidence in anybody? Or are they going to make sure, I mean, maybe they're doing it on purpose, maybe they're not, but there's obviously going to be millions of criminal residents. We're seeing it with just regular thugs, gang takeovers, illegal takeovers, right? I mean, the shoplifting, it's all through the roof. And these are the people who are supposed to be in charge. And this one's a little older. So from March of 2024, the charges were reinstated. And at the time, Kickback Kathy didn't really say anything about this, because I can only assume, I don't know, this is pure speculation, but they were obviously tied up in something together. Maybe she didn't like where he was going with it. Maybe he double-crossed her, but there's a reason that her own lieutenant governor went down. Do you think she got, quote-unquote, elected and then picked this guy who she knew was a criminal? Well, actually, she did, but they were in cahoots together. And I think that one of them crossed the other, and that's how this guy got sold down the river. A federal appeals court on Friday reinstated bribery and fraud charges against former New York Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin. So he got the charges, and then they were dropped because they are all, there's probably some weird corruption scheme up at the top where they decide, okay, we're not going to throw the book at him, we're not going to take him down, but then somebody on top of that decided we are going to throw the book at this guy. It's a complete mess, to put it quite nicely. And when this happened, we obviously had no idea who this Linda Sun woman. Nobody knows. Nobody knows today what she is, except for that she's an agent of China, right? The Biden crime family, Eric Swalwell, they are corrupting New York for sure, along with the entirety of the country, in order to, I guess, gain fancy dinners and mansions. And here, once more, New York City Mayor Eric Adams and others subpoenaed in long-standing federal probe. So they're going to come after him. This is something about the Turkish consulate or something, I think, like that. Some weird campaign finance fraud that he was involved in. And obviously, none of them are going to play it by the book. This shouldn't surprise anybody. Well, a long-standing federal probe. Yeah, the fact that you got even close to the levers of power in New York means you're obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but are likely doing something completely corrupt. Let's see. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been issued a federal grand jury subpoena as part of an investigation into corruption and illegal campaign donations, according to two sources familiar with the matter. Yeah, it truly doesn't even matter, right? They're always in it for their own benefit, and it doesn't. The cities are almost as bad as they can possibly get, right? What could happen next? They literally have migrant takeovers in the Bronx.
A homeowner in the Bronx started renting a basement apartment to a woman who was from Ecuador. But then within a matter of 2 weeks, the woman told the landlord, listen, I'm going back. I'm leaving. My brother is going to take over the apartment. And he said, okay, can you please have your brother fill out the paperwork and include some IDs and send this all to me? That never happened, according to the landlord. In the end, the landlord told me that he believed he was just scammed. They used this woman to get them in there, and once one of them was in there, it became like a clubhouse for 8 or 9 of the most dangerous people the landlord had ever been introduced to. They were selling ketamine, cocaine, marijuana, and handguns out of this basement.
Right? They're getting kicked out of the shelter system in Midtown. It really can't get any worse. When I lived there, I thought it couldn't get any worse, and there was no illegals. So sure, there's a market for everything, and as soon as I think we've hit rock bottom, we certainly haven't. But you have Kathy Hochul, who is tied up with her former aide, her former lieutenant governor, and now the mayor of New York is being subpoenaed. And you imagine how bad you have to be to get in the crosshairs of the FBI, which is also corrupt. And here is one of Adam's fundraisers, who I think is super young. She's like 25 years old. But Adam's fundraiser, whose home was raided by FBI, had odd financial arrangement with campaign. So are we going to pretend that even if these aren't connected at all, you still have to see this coming, right? It's not rocket science that this is par for the course. This corruption is embedded in the American political system. And here, last one, really quick. FBI political corruption investigation involving Oakland Mayor Shang Tao and the Duong family, right? The stereotypical waste management family.
I'm in a waste management business. Everybody immediately assumes you're mobbed up.
And look, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions here, but it is pretty strange that the Sun and Hugh family were working with China, and now the mayor of Oakland, who I think is Laotian or something like that, is also implicated in some sort of federal investigation. But of course, they won't tell us why they're looking into her. The point is, this is literally everywhere. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure it goes so much deeper.